So I'll go through this fairly quickly, the beginning pieces. Kind of my philosophy here is I want you guys to actually have something actionable that you can take back. And so we're not going to talk strategy. We're going to talk, nuts and bolts. So hopefully I'll set expectations if you wanted strategy. Maybe that's next door. But a little bit about me. I am a Samoyed lover. I have two, and they're the most amazing dogs in the world. I live in Bend, Oregon, so I'm a Northwesterner, like Bryant is as well. I've been married for almost 20 years. I have two amazing children, and I'm a lifelong learner. I teach a digital marketing class at a microeducation company called GreenVig. I also teach at George Fox University, just south of Portland, Oregon. So I'm always trying to learn and educate myself and the team, and so hopefully some of that will be valuable for you today. So about you, where are we in our journey, our ABM journey? How many of you are planning? Okay, how many of you are in a pilot phase? Okay, this is good. We're going to have a good mix. And how many of you are in full execution? Okay, good. I'd say maybe a little bit less there, but more people in the planning and pilot phase. So the way we're going to talk about this, it's a two workshop session. The first two areas are going to be, so what I want to focus on is where are people getting stuck, right? So we work with a number of clients that are in all three stages of their ABM execution. And I talked to a bunch of people, Bryant included, my colleagues, our clients, where are you getting stuck? Where are the challenges? And so we're going to drill into those a little bit more. 4 areas. So the first two will be strategic target account selection, and that's the magic word there. And the second in the first session will be technology, and we'll talk a little bit about that because I get asked about technology all the time. And then after the break, we're going to dig into orchestration. And Bryant is doing some amazing things, and I think that orchestration to me is kind of the stuff behind the curtain. It's like all the magic. And so I asked him to go deep for us so that we really could understand how he has been able to execute ABM sales plays. Behind the scenes, looking at the technology that he has and how he's aligned the processes. And then the last thing we'll have, if we have any time left over, we'll talk about change management, which is, no ABM program is truly successful unless you attack change management. So when we talk about ABM, and again, I said I wasn't going to go into strategy, but I thought it would be helpful to kind of put it into 3 buckets. So we've got the planning kind of phase, where we're identifying our strategic accounts. We're really making sure that we've got all the processes in place so that we know who we're talking to. And then the second phase is the execution, whether you want to call it orchestration, engagement. I think that's Marketo's term now. Orchestration, obviously, we've got Yesware and Engagio. What is it that you need in order to make that happen? And we'll dive into a little bit of that, and we're going to talk about some of the technologies in each of these phases. And then the last point, which we won't really talk a lot about, is measure and optimize. But as you're kind of thinking about you're rolling out your plan, it's some variation of these 3 categories. Does anybody have any feedback on that or any thoughts on that? Makes sense? Pretty straightforward? Okay. So where are we getting stuck? So I wanted to talk about strategic account selection. So we are, our agency, we go into clients all the time. Okay, you ready to roll out ABM? Let's talk about account selection. Oh, here's our accounts. Okay, well, where'd you get them? What was the philosophy behind that? Oh, we asked the sales team to go out and do that. So that's one approach. But really, no, it's not really an approach because you're just going to get more of the same. Keep in mind that your strategic account selection, this is the nuts and bolts of it, right? If you don't get this right, nothing else matters, right? So we don't want to just settle for let's ask our sales colleagues to come up with their list. We're going to talk about this in more detail because this is what most of our clients are doing, and it's really diving deep into the ICP, the ideal customer profile, and organizing it around total addressable market to come up with a well thought out approach to account selection. The third, and kind of as we go down the continuum, the more technology is involved. And so I think probably next year when we're having this conversation, we may be, having more discussions around, how are companies really leveraging intent signals to identify account insights and if they're the right buyer for our type of technology, et cetera. So I think intent is something we're hearing more and more about. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, all kinds of good stuff. Still kind of in its early phase from an effectiveness standpoint. I have clients that are indecisive about vendors that are, have achieved the reality of what they're trying to do just yet. And then, the advanced analytics of determining propensity to buy, which, we can talk about at a later date if you guys want. Okay, so any questions on this? So we're going to dive into, and don't forget your persona work, right? Because as I was reviewing this deck with my colleagues, they were like, but this just assumes that we have our personas and we understand, the pain points and motivators of the people that we're trying to talk about or talk to. And, you've watched and talked to John Miller and, who else is talking a lot about, Forrester's doing a lot of stuff, but it's really around getting as much insights as you can around your different personas so that you can be really thoughtful and strategic in how you're going about them. That's just an assumed at this point. We're not really going to talk about that too much. So I wanted to just touch on, we've heard a lot about the new serious demand, the demand waterfall, and I have some notes here that I want to make sure that I articulate it correctly. The main part is the update to the top layer, which is the target demand, and the idea is that all of the efficient and creative demand generation in the world isn't worth it if we're not targeting it appropriately. So this goes back to my conversation before, but Serious Decisions advocates that marketing and sales work together to understand their addressable market, and we'll talk more about that. So quick question, and this was so our client is Inside View, who is, do you guys know Inside View? Tracy Eiler and Megan and Colleen, great group of people, and Andrea, who's not there anymore, but this data is data that we worked through with them to provide. So this was a webinar that they did this summer, and so how does this correlate with you guys? How many of you are doing total addressable market measurement right now? Okay, this might be pretty accurate. Okay, ad hoc? No? Relatively accurate on an annual basis? Okay, and then very accurate. Okay, so maybe a little bit of work to do there, but we'll dive into that briefly. So we've all heard the acronyms ICP and TAM, right? Let's put it into context as how each step will really help you to get your perfect target list of accounts, and kind of think of this as one builds upon the other. So ICP is a fancier term for targeted segmentation. We've been using this term for years, but the way that Inside View has applied it and the things that they've done, I got permission to share because I think it's pretty strategic and insightful. So you really want to find out who your perfect customers are, where do they work, what do they do, and then you go back and say, okay, of those people, where is everybody out there, and how do those accounts fit the profile? The TAM really is going to tell you how large your potential market is, and imagine that if you could know every single account out there or company out there that would match your ICP. I mean, that's pretty powerful as you think about rolling out your ABM strategy. And then once you have that together, that's when you can really dive in and target. So this is an example of the process that they went through. And the one thing I think, and Megan, feel free to chime in here because she was an integral part of the team in rolling this out. What I loved is they brought the finance team in, right? So it wasn't just, hey, sales and marketing friends, let's go have a happy hour and huddle and talk about blah, 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 right? It was like, okay, let's really dig in and figure out what customers are driving revenue. So they put together kind of this matrix and talked about, okay, so this was based on the renewal and upsell midpoints at 70% renewal and 90% upsell. But you could do it however that you would like. But then they mapped it together here and put it up into a quadrant. And so just like our friends Gartner do, the upper right are the ones that, those they're going to expand. They're good customers, they're renewing, they're growing within the business. Okay. So does this make sense from a process standpoint? But having, the joke I made this morning, I really wasn't kidding about, the guy that calls the banker every day and wants to know, how much money do I have in my account? Those kinds of metrics are important as you're looking at this. It's not just, CAC and LTV. It's actually cost to the company, bringing in your customer support numbers. And if you've got an industry or persona that's dragging down the company in one area and you only look at top line revenue, it's still going to have an impact on, the ideal customer profile. So what they ended up with is focusing on these 5 areas. So there they had a real good understanding of these are the industries, these are the type of people that we want to focus on as we roll out our ABM campaigns. And one little reminder, don't forget your persona work, and I'll always come back to that. But really just a pro tip that each of these build upon the previous. So really working on the ICP, get the ideal customer profile down, understand your total addressable market, and then you're ready to target. So strategic doesn't take a lot of technology, but it is a very good and well thought through approach, and Inside View seeing some great success in their ABM campaigns. So any questions? Megan, do you want to add anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, did I do okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So imagine being able to hone in on your target market and your ICP buyers at this level, to really know who they are, and with confidence in knowing that these are the right people that you want to go after. Oh, did I wake? Are you ready for a nap? That was a loud yawn. There's a couch back there. I got dibs on it after this. I'm kidding. I'm sorry to call you out. Okay, so any questions on that? How do you guys feel about that? Yeah.
How did you get that map?
This is Inside View product.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Megan.
This is our own mapping exercise based on that ICP profile, where we went and we did some like white space analysis and total addressable market analysis within our own product.
Does a person have to be an inside view customer to do it?
Technically, yes.
Yes. To get this map, yes. Yeah. But imagine how powerful that would be. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about technology. So I'm curious, what do you guys have? What are you using, in your ABM tech stack? Yeah. Okay.
Salesforce.
Okay.
Using Terminus and Salesforce.
Terminus. Okay.
IBM tech stack.
Yeah.
Marketo, Salesforce, and Trivia.
Okay. Good.
For Salesforce, Marketo, Terminus as well, outreach for the SDR efforts.
Okay. And Inside View.
And Inside View.
Yeah.
Engagio.
Engagio. Oh, okay. Good. All right. Awesome. Okay. So, we're not totally breaking the bank with our MarTech stack. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
I just have to put it up here because it's just, I don't know if you guys follow Scott Brinker, but Chief MarTech, I just love this, and I scour over it, and I just, I'm amazed at, how many people or founders of companies, from earlier here are doing it again, and it's like, how much money do people need to make? It's crazy, but I think it's at 5,400 something right now. So a little crazy, but let's try to hone it down a little bit. This is Engagio's, kind of view of the world. Have you guys seen this? It's on their website too. So, but it'll be in the slide deck. But this kind of puts it into, you've got the kind of the who and the what, right? So that's kind of the planning phase, and then you've got the execution phase, and then you've got your analytics. But I wanted to tie this back again to the framework. So we go back to the framework that we talked about and look at. So if we've got our identify and plan here, then there's different tools for account selection. There's different tools for predictive and AI. We talked about that earlier. Lead to account matching, full circle is a great tool. Are you guys doing lead to account matching? So what that is if you've got your target accounts, when anybody comes in through Marketo, you kind of got to know that they're, target accounts, because otherwise they'll run through your sales process and you look like a moron when you pick up the phone and it's like, the right hand and the left hand are talking. Full circle, lean data. But it's something that you probably want to address sooner rather than later. Data augmentation, same thing. You as you're identifying your target accounts, understand the buying groups, right? I think what did he say this morning? It was did he say 19 people in the buying groups typically for B2B sales or B2B software? So you got to know who those people are, right? I mean that's it's an investment you want to make. So then on the kind of the orchestration piece, these are your Triblios and your RTP products like Marketo's RTP. Are you guys using that? Yeah? How's that work? Is it pretty good?
Not used it long enough to tell you.
Okay. And then you've got your advocacy. Megan and I are big fans of advocacy. Influitive is a great tool if you guys are ever looking at that. You've got your email marketing and your events component, and then obviously your CRM, and then your measure and optimize. So this is just kind of a, we look at this and we kind of decide, okay, what areas do we want to focus on as we're rolling out new technology? This is my opinion only. I think you have to have marketing automation and CRM. In my opinion, attribution funnel metrics and data tools, you got to have those. And then you kind of really figure out, I'm talking fast. I think we're going to be good. Then you really have to find out, what do you want to tackle next? Does it lead to account matching, predictive and account selection, IP cookie-based ad retargeting, Triblio, Terminus. There's another one that I really like. It's Quanzu. I don't know if you guys have talked to those guys. So they're cookie-based. They do a lot of stuff internationally. Orchestration, which is Engagio, Yesware, those types of tools. Personalization, we talked about that, and so on. So, I think the most important thing to remember is make sure that I have a client who he put up his ABM tech stack and he had 9 tools. And in my head I'm thinking 3,000 a month times 9, and then I'm like, no wonder you don't have money for services, right? And I was like, why? Why do you have 3 lead scoring tools? I don't understand. And his response was, well, we have a really small marketing department, so we have to invest heavily in technology. And I was like, so that doesn't really make sense to me. I didn't argue with him, but how do you run the technology, right? I mean, adoption is such a huge issue. So, my recommendation is, it sounds like it's what you guys are doing, right? You've got your basic tools in place and you take one, you absorb it, you master it, you figure out, how to use it effectively, and then you tackle the next business problem. Same thing. I mean, I would see, maybe 2 a year, depending on, hi, how are you? Are you with New Relic?
Yeah.
Oh, I recognized you. Hi, it's so good to see you. Depending on, you guys have a great tech stack, actually.
Large.
Yeah. So, but you got to absorb it. You've got to get value out of it before you move on. So I think that's an important thing to consider. Any questions about that? Okay, so I think we're going to dive into, after the break, we're going to dive into orchestration. But wanted to open it up for Q&A right now and see if anybody had any questions. We're doing good. I talked fast. Yeah.
So I was a little surprised to see lead to account matching as not one of the kind of must-haves on that previous slide. what are you seeing or recommending people do if they're already trying to run some sort of ABM? Like, for example, one of the issues that I'm starting to face right now is that our sales team and SDR team are crossing paths a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is because the SDR team is working out of leads and the sales team is working out of contacts.
Yep.
So what are you seeing people use before using some sort of LTA?
Well,
to get around those types of issues?
and in my defense, a lot of the attribution tools have lead to account matching, full circle, for example. So we are seeing a lot of people bypassing the lead module and going straight to contacts, which is helpful. And I know you don't want to hear this, but a lot of it is it's a lot of manual. It's a lot of people actually looking at the data and matching things up. So you're probably right that probably should be in a must-have if it's not part of one of these fundamental tools, because it will wreak havoc on your process and get you into trouble fairly quickly. So it's a good point.
For people that are kind of starting from relatively early on in the company's history, are you advocating to just bypass these entirely and work out of contacts?
We do a lot of lead management, right? And so there's pros and cons for doing it, right? If you're really trying to understand lead velocity, depending on how you're doing that, it could be a good thing, and it could work against you as well. I do know, is anybody else doing that? Bypassing the lead module. I know Marketo is now doing that. We've got a couple of clients that are doing that, and moving straight to contacts. But then you don't, if you're trying to measure, time from, top of funnel engagement to MQL or the different stages in the process, it's just, it gets a little murky if you're doing that. Yeah.
And from the Marketo perspective, you can essentially have Marketo regard leads and contacts exactly the same way. And you can have the same stages on leads as you do on contacts. And therefore, if you do that, it doesn't matter whether it's a lead or contact. So there's no downside to putting them all in contacts. It's just that most organizations don't do that. If you were starting fresh, you're in a great position to do it. But if you're, an existing company with lots of ADRs who are used to using leads, then
You said that you missed the conversion event and all the metrics you get around
Yeah.
conversion.
Yeah.
necessarily.
Depending on how your process is set up. Bryant, do you have a thought on that?
Well, I would just say you end up changing how a lot of the other players in the ecosystem end up interacting with your systems. Like, just to the point about conversion point, if you're to do a readiness assessment for Einstein, right, it looks at that conversion point. So if you don't have that in your process, you're not going to be able to use Einstein, which is kind of an interesting thing. But from our perspective, we basically treat leads and contacts as the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to do that in full circle.
Okay. And in Salesforce, are you using the lead module?
Yeah, we still use it,
Mm-hmm.
but our ADR team primarily works out of contact.
Right. Okay. The inside sales team. Okay.
So what are you asking? If you have stages, cold list, MQL, SAL, SQL, it doesn't matter whether it's a lead or contact. You can still track those conversions. It just doesn't matter. So if you have those stages on the contacts, you're fine.
We're just rolling that out this week, actually.
Just using
But we're
stage
still
progression
keeping-
as a proxy for conversions.
Good conversation. So you guys might want to hook up at the break and talk about, yeah. Anything else? Was this helpful?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go do a little ICP exercise with the finance team after this. I don't know. I thought it was brilliant. I thought, it took a while, but, I think they've got it really dialed in. And, you guys were working on this about 6 months ago. So a little bit ahead of the game. So good. So after the break, then we're going to dive into orchestration, and then we'll talk about change management. and then that'll do it. Okay, cool. Okay, we'll see you guys in what, half hour?
Thank you.
Thank you.